So here we got a small block Chevrolet, and what a lot of classic car owners find a problem with is oil leaks. So pretty common oil leaks on them, and I mean it goes for big blocks and other platforms as well. Is valve cover leaks. People will over tighten the valve covers, potentially warping the valve cover, or bulging the gasket out. And what that does is now you got a valve cover leak, which can make it look like it's an oil pan leak, or make it look like it's a rear main seal leak, because the way this engine sits in the car is actually tilted towards the back. So I mean, gravity, oil runs down the block, runs from the head, runs down the block, and goes right to the back of the block, right at the bottom. Makes it look like it's from the oil pan. Same thing goes for the intake. When you're installing your intake, I don't use the rubber gaskets in the front of the intake or in the rear of the intake. I actually run a bead of silicone on the China walls, and when you're installing the intake, make sure you get the mark lined up straight, because if you actually set it down on the silicone, and if you have to move it any, now you need to redo it, because now it's not going to get as good seal. That's pretty common. Oil pressure sensor right in the back of the block. I don't know if you really can see it, but it's right there, right in the back of the block. Those are pretty common to leak. Some people actually forget to put plugs in there. You'd be surprised. Those are pretty common. There's actually also a plug right beside that you only can get to with the head off. Some people forget to install that when they're building the engine, so it'd be crucial. Make sure you remember that. Another common thing is when they're installing the oil pan gasket, make sure everything is straight. Make sure the pan is straight. A lot of times the aftermarket pans, they're pretty poorly made. The rails will be bent. So put a straight edge on them before you install them. Put them on the edge of the bench. Hammer those rails, get them straight. That's pretty crucial. Test fit the gasket on the pan before you put it on the engine. Look on the half moons. Make sure the gasket is sitting on the pan on the half moons, because a lot of times with those aftermarket pans, and the original ones are better, the gasket won't sit on the half moon very good. So even though Felpro or whatever requires you only put silicone if you're using a one-piece gasket on the four corners, sometimes you actually have to put it on the half moons to get the seal up good. I've seen that pretty common. But just make sure when you're searching for oil leak, intake manifold bolts as well. Make sure those are all tight. But like I said, make sure you're checking oil up top before you just assume it's down bottom and assume it's a rear main seal or oil pan gasket, because oil runs down the block and make it look like that. Just a tip.